Hello and welcome to the podcast for the Metaphysical Network for Conscious Living. My name is Ross Taylor, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Germana Rovinelli. Germana will be speaking at the Unitarian Fellowship Hall at 595 Townsite Road on Tuesday, February 24th, and her presentation is titled Healing, the Inside Job. We will begin at 7 p.m., and we ask that you bring a $20 cash donation. Let me tell you a little bit about the network and Germana, and then we can jump right into our conversation. The Metaphysical Network for Conscious Living helps people seeking community, connection, and spiritual development to feel inspired and empowered by providing enlightening experiences through seminars, workshops, podcasts, fairs, and conferences. Germana offers an extensive background in holistic health and the journey of healing. Drawn to understand the power and usefulness of the subconscious mind as a teenager, she knew this was her best option for healing herself. She was taught by incredible teachers that gave her support and permanent results to clear and heal generational trauma and live a spiritual-based life. Germana broke the cycle of trauma, addiction, abuse, and poverty by utilizing the spirit of the subconscious mind. She lives in Nanaimo BC and is a successful healer, trainer, and mind-body therapist with over 30 years of experience. Welcome, Germana.
Thank you so much, Ross. What a beautiful introduction. It's beautiful. Thank you so much for that, for doing your background work.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm happy to have you here on the podcast and to have this conversation that leads up to your talk on the 24th. And so I thought I would start. I went to your website and I saw the quote on your homepage, and I'll just read it out for the listeners and then we can chat about it a bit. And the quote is, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And I'd love to hear what you have to say about that particular quote and perhaps why you chose it and how it informs your work or informs the listeners about the way that you work.
The quote itself was one that I had heard many, many times from another individual who is also an international healer. And he talked about that as a way of saying you really can run, but you can't hide. Your programming will show up in your life no matter what you think or want, and we can't really hide from it. It's part of the way our instincts are wired to do these behaviors, and we'll go, well, no, it's just a XYZ, men are this or women are this or life is this, and it's really our subconscious impressions that are presenting and the lens that we look through that gives us that as our truth, or we can release those belief systems or that programming. If we don't bring it up, it will show up often as a layer of grief that never gets dealt with. It will also show up as, it can show up as poverty. It can show up as self-worth issues. It can show up as a disease. Everything comes from the subconscious unless it's at least looked at. Is this true? And often what we're carrying is what we have been taught to believe as children, or we've integrated or absorbed our parents' nervous system, which is their subconscious unresolved trauma. And so we just bring it on. So I think the quote is brilliant. I believe it's Carl Rogers who quoted that.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. I just like it so much because it's like, if you're looking for where the problem comes from, stop looking out there. Go inside and do the inner work, the work behind your eyes, and discover this beautiful well of deep wisdom. And I call it pulling out the blackberry bushes in your garden instead of making them pretty.
Okay.
Trimming them and putting ribbons and things on them. You go, like, if I could actually pull that out as a core wound or a belief system that causes me damage, what would be different if I could pull it out? And then it takes the person out of being a victim.
Right.
And I like that.
And when you talk about these things being unconscious, I know that on my own healing journey, like I always say that we can't see ourselves accurately, and it's because of all these unconscious programs, right? So that's why we need someone outside of ourselves often to reflect what we can't see, whether it's patterns, whether it's beliefs, whether it's ways of being. And I know that when I reached out years ago to go to someone that does what you do, I found it really helpful because I had no choice but to get out of the way. It was like I was very clever at managing the people that were trying to support me, and whether it was conscious or not. And so what I loved about this work was I had no choice but to just relax into the background and let what needed to come out. Which I thought, do you find that with clients?
When they're ready, yes. I
Yeah.
think it's one of the most amazing types of work to do because if you're any good at it, you basically don't keep your client for long. So I think there's a lot of integrity in that. One
Hmm.
of the teachers that I also had, his name was, he was a ninth black belt from Okinawa, Japan. And it's our filters. We see what we want to see, we
Hmm.
hear what we want to hear, and we believe what makes us right.
Right.
And so that can paint us into a corner and like, okay, yeah, no, this is just the way the world is. Yes, it's kind of a scary place, but if you stay
Hmm.
centered in your inner self by having a practice or a sacred practice or just recognizing that you are a being of whatever you call it, you're powerful, you're lovable, you're enough, then you can manage the world and see it for what it is. I call it, it's like a three-ring circus.
Hmm.
It's Earth School. And I always look at the behaviors. I don't look at what someone tells me. I watch what they do.
Hmm.
The saying is stop talking, your actions are screaming too loud because all the action is subconscious.
Right.
It's responsible for all of it.
Right.
Um,
And when you say actions, what are you seeing? Is it body language? Is it?
It can be someone that doesn't allow themselves to succeed. It can
Mm,
be someone that stays in the role of being a victim in grief because there's something that needs to be processed and witnessed, and they don't know how to ask for it, and they're just going to be mad instead of saying, I'm really hurt. Most people can't do that. And so
hmm.
a good hypnotherapist helps a person process the grief clean so they're not carrying it around anymore. And then there's this energy that's used to have whatever they're choosing, whatever they
Right.
want. Um, so when I look at actions, it's like if I see someone who says, I want to get fit and I'm committed and here's my money and I'm going to do it. And then they get to their sessions 20 minutes late all the time. I'm going to notice that
Sure.
because I'm not making up the difference. I'm like, clearly there's some part of you that is a protesting. There's some part of you that thinks you can't have it. You're
Hmm.
not good enough or whatever. And that kind of is mimicked in the behavior.
Right. And so it's information that guides your work then.
It tells me where their blind spot is, one of them. And I would say everyone has a blind spot and everyone has a trap door.
Mm,
So if I can trigger somebody hard enough, the trap door will open up and we'll see all of the stuff come up.
yeah.
I wouldn't do that intentionally. Um, Recently, I worked with a fellow who had been seeing a psychologist for over 2 years weekly, who had very severe, complicated post-traumatic stress disorder and was not able to work properly. And I said to
Okay.
his wife, I said, send me your husband. And so she sent me the husband. He was ready because he was painted into the corner bad enough. I'll try anything, even if I don't believe in this, was basically the
Sure.
way that he loved it. But what was neat about it was when we got to his last session, which is just yesterday's eighth session, he was like, I just feel so much more empowered. And I know that I'm not the role that I had put myself in this box. He was stuck in this servitude position working in Nanaimo, and he'd been traumatized by his job. And I said,
Mm,
that's just a role that you play. It's not who you are. And he just
right.
looked at me. But previous to that, he kept thinking he couldn't do it good enough, wasn't enough, was being, attacked by other people.
Right.
So he didn't know how to feel safe. And
Right.
if you can't feel safe, then you can't actually show up doing your work because you're constantly feeling like you're being stung to death.
Hmm.
And that is the subconscious reliving a trauma or not knowing that it's safe.
Sure.
So that's the behavior also coming out.
Yeah, I believe so many of us are walking through the world dysregulated and we don't even realize we are dysregulated. We just think
100%.
it's normal and it's not. Like we don't know what it feels like to feel relaxed and peaceful and calm because we never have in some cases.
Well, and also to go when there's an emotion that spikes to go, okay, what's going on? What do I need that I'm
Hmm.
not getting?
Right.
Like when I get too much coming at me at once, I recognize anger will come up, but that's the only way I ever was taught to protect myself because I wasn't allowed to say I'm scared as a
Right.
little girl, right? I need 10 minutes. I don't want to answer your question. Can I just be left alone? So if I force myself, which is what most of us do,
Hmm.
then the emotions will get strong and gnarly because I'm actually afraid, but I haven't been taught that I'm safe to go, I'm not, I just want to be quiet.
Hmm.
Leave me alone. And
Yeah,
now I do that, but in the old days, I didn't know how.
exactly.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who is skeptical about hypnotherapy? I mean, most of us, we've seen the hypnotists online putting
Yeah.
people out,
Yeah.
and it's entertainment, but the work that you do is not entertainment. It's much more nuanced than that. So what would you say to people who are skeptical about, oh, I can't be put under, or whatever the thought is?
I would actually encourage them to keep their skepticism and have an experience to see what's true.
Mm,
Most people have some kind of aversion because they think they will lose control instead of being given more control over this beautiful piece of equipment that they have. I say that we're all kind of we're Lambo in stealth mode, but we haven't been taught how to use it,
mm,
right? And most of the training and the education we've been taught is just to follow and not think and check in. How does this feel? We just do it. I call it the sheeple principle. And when somebody has that and they're in protest or they don't trust or they don't feel safe, I just say, well, why don't you sit down and we'll have a tea and then we'll have a conversation and just see what happens. And I'll ask for permission and then I'll record that session. And most people see I've never been this calm in my whole life,
mhm.
but I'll record it so they can listen to it over and over again. And our very first hypnotists were our parents.
Wow. I've never heard that before.
Mhm.
Wow.
That's where it all comes from.
And is that because we're so focused on them? Like we have no
We're
choice,
part,
right? Like
we're part of them. They are
we're
our
part of
God.
them. Yeah.
And we don't have words. You don't really have words for your first couple of years. So you're just picking up on their emotions and you absorb it as if it's yours. So you might not even be picking or carrying your own rage or anger or issues about finances, but you're picking up the conflicts that your parents had and just think money's hard and the world is hard and we can't make it and it's really terrible. And so that gets to be what you call as a worldview or a false core. And
Hmm.
then that's the hypnotic script that person lives by. And then that's their life theme. So that's the unconscious becoming conscious, right? It's now it shows up. What are you doing? What's your normal? That's how you're
Hmm.
programmed. Um, life is what it themes to be. And most of what we carry isn't even ours.
Right.
There's a saying that we have about 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of those thoughts started when we were children, and then we just repeat them. And that's the unconscious.
Sure. Over and
Like if
over.
you get still and you listen to what your internal dialogue says and what it will say about this or that, and you write it down, you're like, holy moly, I'm saying that to myself all the time.
Hmm.
And so yeah, like any learning has to be done hypnotically. Anything that we learn that's a reflex, it has to be first conscious. You have to think about it, and then it goes
Hmm.
into the subconscious, and then it's automatic. It's like driving a standard
Sure.
pedal bike. In the beginning, it's very, it's awkward.
Sure.
All learning has to integrate that way.
Hmm.
Otherwise, be able to function, we would
Yeah.
probably
I
be
mean,
food.
today today I was walking in the woods and I tripped on a root and I was like, wait a second, who's walking right now? Like, what's going on here? Um, I also wonder about what you might say about, like, I think about things like the body of work called the gene keys. And in the gene keys, there's this mention of, I think it's like 93% of our DNA being past lives and like historic. And so what would you say about that piece? Like how much of our what we're playing out unconsciously is also past lives?
Um, I have two answers to that. I believe that when we incarnate in this time, we're actually taking up the pieces. The it's like the record stopped, boom, we died, and then we pick our players, and then we reincarnate, and the record starts again, and the themes are still playing again. So I believe it is a carryover from past lives and unresolved or things that we've done that are great or things that we've done that are traumatic. I mean, when you see someone like even Leonardo da Vinci or Beethoven or these people that are geniuses, they didn't just come in with this, like they came in with it. They didn't learn it. It was already in them, and that is subconscious and it's soul. So
Hmm.
my belief is the more work that I did, and this might sound a little bit woo-woo, the more that I did psychic development work, which is also definitely part of hypnotic work and mediumship work. I didn't choose to do that professionally, I can do it. But the more that and the more past lives that I had done on me, the more I'd seen myself murdered for being a healer
Mm,
over and
yeah.
over and over and over and over and over and over. And and I realized why I was so afraid to step out in this lifetime because I was afraid of being murdered again. And then I just went, well, the real way to play it out is just show up and let that universe, let the love that is you work through you and trust that your needs will be met and you'll be taken care of.
Hmm.
I think whatever we haven't resolved, we replay. We just keep doing it. We get the same person that maybe they were abusive to us in a past life, and this time it reverses. I know that when my son was born, I knew that I knew him from a past life.
Okay.
And then I was regressed to where I knew him from. And it was a key that linked us to so many past lives. Because as he was dying in my arms, I was a
Yeah.
young man, he was dying, he was bleeding to death, and I was begging him not to die.
Mm,
The words that you think, feel, and say as you die, before you die, and after you die create the link for your next lifetimes. I'm begging him not to die. He
right.
says, he goes, I'll never leave you. I'll be with you always as he slips out of his body. He was about 18 months old at the time as a tiny toddler.
Yeah.
And I came home and he's this cute little thing the size of a teddy bear. And I just picked him up and thanked him. And I knew when he was born, no, no, I actually said, oh no, not again.
Hmm.
Because I knew this little soul and I knew this was trouble.
Yeah. And I love that you shared all that and prefaced it with like, I hope this isn't too woo-woo because this is your audience. The metaphysical network is all people who want this kind of content. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
welcome and it's such a great example of a theme that will play out in our lives and we don't understand the connection or why it keeps happening even though we've been trying to do so much work around it.
Well, and I love this. Like, if you just get used to touching, like, where do I know this person from? And you just go pop, you'll often get it. What
Hmm.
does this remind me of? Pop, you'll get it. Your subconscious will start to pop, but you have to have the rapport with yourself. And then
Hmm.
it's not just that, you also then need to be able to resolve the grief and the angst and the resentment and the hurt so that you're not carrying it with you because most of what happens if you do past life regression work, which is obviously part of what I do, it's not my specialty, but it's part of what I do. I will say to the client as they review these pieces of another life,
Hmm.
and I'll say, can you see that those emotions and that loss and that grief came from that life that you're now living out in this life? And they'll go, yeah. And
Right.
they'll go, wow. And I go, now that you know where it came from, would you like to leave it there?
Yeah.
And then usually it's gone
Right.
because they've made that decision. I don't really understand the mechanism other than it's like that same song, if you're
Hmm.
playing a song and then you dance to that song, even if the song was played in the 1800s, it comes and part of your psyche and your soul know, and you
Knows
you
it.
play the same song. And I think what's fascinating also is when we have love interests or devastations or losses or children, all of those have been with us past lives.
Okay.
We're like wolves. We all come together and we go,
Yeah.
this is a pack. And you don't know why this person just feels normal.
Right. Yeah, I've
That's
had
so,
those experiences for sure. I
yeah.
remember one relationship, the moment she walked through the door, I was like, I know you. Like it was just,
Uh-huh.
but it wasn't I know you. It was like, I know you.
Yeah. Yeah. You
And then
feel it.
we played out this karmic dance together, which was painful. In
Hmm.
the end, it was painful. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. And then they also say that the people that you don't forgive are the ones you're guaranteed to come back with.
Okay. Well, that's important to note as well.
Yeah, you gotta let that go. Because otherwise it's a guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And is there anything else that you haven't said that you want to let our listeners know about you and your work?
Um, I think for me, the work that I think it saved my life
Mm,
primarily because I'd had so much. Um, I was just raised by very, 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 very unhealthy people that were children of World War II.
okay.
So I was raised in a war zone as a child, and all I knew was that something was wrong, and I blamed myself. because that's what
Mm,
children do. And then
yeah.
when I started to do the deprogramming work and also the daily practice of meditation, I started to discover that I was lovable and I was smart and that maybe I could be safe for this much time. And then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I was allowed to develop myself, the parts of me that had been stunted from being forced to grow up at 2.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that this work for people that have been stuck in a trauma response and a cycle of not seeing that their worth or their value are at their access, this work is one of the most loving pieces. We're going to turn that off. Loving pieces of work that I've ever seen. It's great for people that have done some talk therapy because then they kind of know what the this is my issue, but I'll sit with someone and I can feel it. They don't have to tell me,
Hmm.
just feel it.
Okay.
Mhm.
I love
I
that.
don't.
And do you have any upcoming events that you'd like
Hmm.
to let our listeners know about?
Well, and it might be a little bit late, but I'm starting on February 19th in my home. It's a 8-week personal um, self-development series called Developing Self-Love. And it's a series it's like we meet every Thursday for an hour and 15 minutes for 8 weeks. And I
Okay.
teach them how to keep their power and how to be present and how to trust the universe and how to stay out of their head and move back into their magic and then
Excellent.
start to parent them. So I love it. Anyway.
Okay. That sounds amazing. And
Hmm.
I think this will go out on YouTube early enough that people will be able to hear that. So that's great.
That's wonderful.
And if anybody wants to connect to you, I know that we have your website information in the newsletter, but what's the best place to connect with you?
Usually texting.
Texting? Okay. And I'm not sure if that's in there. So do you want to give your phone
I'll
number
say
out?
it's 250-714-4369.
Excellent. I know that's on your website as well.
Yeah, but that seems to be the quickest, easiest way. It's just the way of the world, the
For
cell
sure.
phone. Yeah.
Excellent. So thanks so much for this conversation. I'm so glad that you took the time to share with us, and I think
Yeah.
it'll help people have a better idea of who you are and leading up to the presentation. So I look forward to that,
Thank
and
you.
grateful to have you here.
I'm
You're
so grateful
welcome.
for your time and your service.
Thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
so for everyone listening, please join us at 595 Townsite Road at the Unitarian Fellowship Hall at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, February 24th. Thanks for
Thank you.
listening, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.